Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com, and today I want to talk to you about why not scaling up is unethical. Now, I have to put some caveats at the very beginning because I know people will say, well, but what about this and what about that? And listen, if you are just starting out, obviously you can't scale up yet. You're just barely getting going. If you do not have the finances to maybe hire an employee or get some AI or something to do more of the work for you, then you can't do it. That's okay. We're not talking about what you can or cannot do. We're talking about if you refuse to. And this was birthed from, I saw an interview with an individual who's very successful, but he's weak. He's mentally weak. He has a scarcity mentality. And he was talking about how, well, he didn't want to scale up because, it's so hard. And he realized it wasn't really him. And he just made excuses for, he didn't want to manage a bunch of people. You could hire a manager to manage the people. But he just had endless excuses for why he couldn't do this. And part of his scaling up where he tried at one point and failed. That's where so many of these people who have this shrinking back mentality and are telling others to shrink back as well. That's where so many of them are coming from, is they failed. They tried scaling up. They failed miserably because they weren't even doing things right. This individual, for example, was trying to take all of the scaling up on his own. So he's trying to do more work and just work himself into scaling up. For whatever reason, he was not pulling in people alongside him to help him. Now, the reason why I say not scaling up is unethical is because you can bless people in this life with employment. That's a blessing. We think about blessing and charity and those things as good, but employing people just seem like, oh, well, whatever. Employment is a good, blessed thing you can do to hire somebody and bless them. You're taking care of their family. Of course, they're providing value for it. It's not some charity, but it's a good thing you can do. And to imagine that you create a business and you take on employees and you're able to bless them and pay them a good wage and they're able to raise their families and everybody's doing well because of this thing you created with the blessing of the Lord, that's a good thing. And to not do that, to just be one of these people that says, well, I'm just going to do enough for me. I don't want to get too big, that's going to be too hard. As if your life is made to be lived easy. Now, there is a way to live life on easy mode, but it does not mean being lazy. It does not mean shrinking back. It does not mean doing less. Things can be easy, but it doesn't mean that you do less. It doesn't mean that you shrink back. It doesn't mean that you only think about yourself and your family. I want entrepreneurs to think bigger, to think differently, to start scaling up, realizing the benefit and blessing to society and the world at large that they have in employing more people, in providing more value to the world. And I have to be clear, I'm not talking about just hiring people just to hire people, because sometimes people do this, they get in this weird charitable business mentality where they're hiring people strictly as a charitable endeavor. The people are not adding value. The people are not really doing much in the business. As a matter of fact, they really are not needed at all, but they're still hiring them anyway because they're trying to help people out. That's another form of unethical behavior because it is not ethical to take somebody's time, the value they're going to be trying to create for your company, when it's not needed at all. I know you think because you're paying them, it somehow makes it all right. No. If they are doing a job that's not needed, it is not ethical. And the old example is the man who hires somebody to dig a hole, and then the next day he hires him to fill it back up. And the next day he digs the hole again. And the next day he fills it up, and so on and so forth. That is unethical, even though you're paying the man and you're paying him fairly, and all the little catchphrases people have about fair living wage or whatever, you're paying them very well. That does not make it right still when you're paying somebody well to do something that doesn't need to be done, to do something that is wasting their life, wasting their time, because they're not actually adding any real value, because the work they are doing, the work you're employing them to do, is not necessary. If there is AI that can do that job and you're employing somebody to do it instead, you're wasting their life on a fruitless endeavor where they are not adding the value that you're paying them to add. And it is not ethical to do that. So I don't want you to think scaling up means just hiring a bunch of people to sit around and do nothing all day. No, it means you wisely hire people as needed and you are blessing their lives and you're paying them a fair wage. I'm not talking about paying people cheap, low wages. It depends obviously what country you're in. Some countries are very, very, very low wages. That's fine if they're able to pay their bills and do whatever they need to do. I think we'll start to have more, because I've been around long enough. I've seen entrepreneurial mentality, and it kind of goes in cycles, and there's kind of these things people latch to, and then everybody starts talking about it. It was years ago, it was about grinding. You got to grind, and everybody was about that. And that's good and true. But now you're starting to hear more and more people talking about, well, you need self-care. And, I'm taking cold plunges and just all this stuff where they're just trying to, a lot of it's entrepreneurs that are bored. So they're trying all these things, trying to find some fulfillment in life. Many of them because they don't know Jesus, so they're not walking with him. So they're living this unfulfilled life. And so shrinking back, scaling back makes sense to them because they're not finding any fulfillment in anything they do, because the purpose for what they're doing has no value. Their purpose is either just to make money only, that's the only thing they care about, or to get some accolades from men, maybe to get some material possessions. So they don't really have any real why that's important, and so they don't get any kind of fulfillment from doing those things. And so I think you'll probably start to see more and more where the entrepreneurial type mentality is going toward this path of, well, I'm just doing less because I'm just trying to find peace. I'm just focused on self-care. And that sounds good to the world, but it is useless and meaningless when you don't know Jesus and you're just walking alone. You're walking, actually not even walking alone, you're walking with the devil, but he's defeating you and kicking you every step of the way. There's a great blessed life you can live out there, the life Jesus came to give you. Now, this is not what the professing Christian church talks about. They'll tell you about forgiveness of sins, which sounds great, except that's not what the gospel was about. It was about knowing God. It was about getting into a right state and being born again, becoming a new person, a new creature in Christ. All those old things passing away, you taking up the righteousness of God in Christ, and you start to live a different life. And part of living that different life is being exceptional, is being someone of an exceptional spirit, someone that is diligent in their endeavors, someone who is doing things for a real purpose, a purpose of glorifying God with their lives. When you have a purpose that is outside of just your fleshly desires, and especially the idea of just trying to be seen as powerful or important or successful to men, you start to live differently. You'll do things differently, and you'll see the value in scaling up and how important it is to increase and improve each and every day. Now, what that means for you might be very different from somebody else. So this is not about you going comparing yourself with somebody that's got $1 billion business when you have a $1,000 business. This is about you doing the best with what you have, what your capacity is right now, and scaling up and doing more and more each and every day. This is not about the grind mentality, because the grinding mentality was often about just doing work for the sake of work, and it was not wise. And that's why I wrote a whole book called Work Smarter and Harder, which deals with why you should work smart, but you also should work hard. But you shouldn't just work hard, and you shouldn't just work smart. You need to do both. And that was often not included in the mentality of people who thought about grinding. And the mentality today, where people are just about self-care and doing less, and it's always people who have already made it to a certain extent. They're able to talk about, I'm just taking this trip vacation, because I gotta get more in touch with myself and feel better. And yeah, it's easy when you have already made it, and then you can start doing these things. Then you start pulling back and shrinking back. But the people who are listening to you are never going to get there if they don't do the hard and smart work today. If they don't scale up today. If they keep shrinking back and listening to people like you who don't know what they're doing, who have failed when they tried to scale up, and now their resort is to pretend like they really meant to do it that way. Oh, I failed miserably trying to scale up, but I don't really want to scale up. I've realized I really don't like that. You can dress up failure all you want, but if your intent was to do one thing and you failed to do it, you failed. It wasn't some noble goal that you realized now that you didn't really want to scale up. No, it's a coping mechanism, and it's weak and pathetic. I want you to do your best each and every day, my friend. I want you to scale up. I want you to realize the value in scaling up, that it's important hiring people, that it's important adding more value to the world, that your business is important. I don't care what level you're at right now. It doesn't matter. You can do more, and it starts with you having a good, important why, where you want to create more value in the world, where you want to live to honor God, you'll start doing things differently, and you can't help it, you'll naturally start to scale up and do more and more each and every day. You'll start taking on people to work with you, and you'll start to do more and provide more value to the world. And that is an ethical way of living. My friend, I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.